Operation Truth. The show they don't want you to see. Now, here's your host, Lou.
Hi, everyone. This is Lou Palumbo. With me, as always, I am honored to have Tom Fuentes. Tom is a former assistant director of the FBI with a very distinguished career. You've probably heard me allude to it a number of times. I mean, you can't quantify what he did protecting this country. He's also an historian, and I keep promising to bump back into this Kennedy assassination and a discussion about the military-industrial complex, which we were warned about by Dwight D. Eisenhower. We learned that from Tom, by the way. He informed us of Eisenhower's speech, warning us about the military-industrial complex, and guys, we're living it today. And we're going to brush right into a topic that has some correlation to what I just spoke to, and I'm going to bring Tom in right away. Being reported that the Ukraine has now carried out an incursion into Russia, which I find rather interesting. I'm just kind of spitballing. Tom's going to give you an opinion because there's nothing really in concrete here, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to hear a little bit of conjecture or speculation. But if we were looking to de-escalate and probably move towards some form of a compromise, I would think this would not be the direction in which we would like to go. I could be wrong. But Tom, I'd like you to just help me out with this at this point. And I do realize there's nothing that we can factually base information on. So what do you think a potential response from Putin could be? I mean, how if you had to spitball, Tom, and let me remind you guys of something. Tom was in charge of the entire FBI operation internationally. So he has a very, very clear understanding oftentimes of how governments work, think, and function. It's been necessary for him to go on that learning curve to allow him to plan and to direct the agents of the FBI, the special agents. So Tom, I go to you and ask you, if we were going to spitball a little bit here, Tom, what do you think?
I don't know. That's what I think. Because Putin's been very patient about, moving very slowly and I think trying to buy time in the Ukraine. Contrary to what many people say in the media, he is not trying to conquer Ukraine. He doesn't want to own responsibility for running Ukraine. He just wants a guarantee that Ukraine will not join NATO and therefore not have U.S. and other NATO weaponry right on his border. So that's what this whole thing's been about from day one. They had worked out a negotiated deal, Putin's people and Zelensky's people, before the incursion more than 2.5 years ago. And at that time, Zelensky had agreed, okay, we'll stay out of NATO, we'll stay neutral. And then the only arguments then were over what started in 2014 when Russia took Crimea back, which had always been a Russian property going back to the 1700s. So basically, and then the eastern provinces in Ukraine, Donetsk and the other ones, wanted to be, they're mostly Russians, and they wanted to be part of Russia, not part of Ukraine. And the Ukrainian military was harassing them and bombing them and all of that. And that's the part of the Ukrainian military, by the way, which is Nazi. They actually have the Nazi insignias on their uniforms and equipment. So basically, Putin has been just buying time, I think, until we have our election and all of that. I don't think he wants to kill Americans. I don't think he wants to be in that situation. So he's been very patient about how he's handling this whole thing. And as far as this incursion into Russia by the Ukrainians, I don't know. I don't know how much of an incursion it is or what type of damage they're doing or what Putin's going to do with it, because Putin pretty much has the resources that seems like he could take them out in a heartbeat if he wanted to.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, Tom. Agree with you in saying that, Tom, because we know that he has quite a nuclear arsenal. He has a number of tactical nuclear devices, hypersonic missiles, etc. I think that the election might tell the tale because Trump has so boldly stated that he will resolve this war in the Ukraine before he gets sworn in, which is not really a far reach, because if we suddenly cut off Mr. Zelensky from money and munitions, etc., he wouldn't be able to prosecute this war. That's the simple truth attached to this discussion. He's a big guy on the block because we're standing behind him. It's like being, and I hate to create this analogy, but say you're 6 foot, the guy behind you like 6'8", you got muscle behind you. That's kind of what's going on with Putin. He's got muscle behind him. I think the important thing is that when we start to broach this topic about compromise with the Ukraine and Russia, that they allow Putin to save face. That's one thing that's very, very important. Tom and I don't know where this is going to go. Unfortunately, we're both reliant upon information being disseminated by our media outlets, which lends itself to potential agendas, things of that nature. I think they're desperate to try to paint as positive a picture for this administration as they possibly can, in light of the fact that we're probably in this proxy war because of this administration and its clear demonstration of weakness, and I would say a rather ass-backwards withdrawal from Afghanistan. Tom, I want to go into Israel now, as long as we're on foreign policies and, wars in parts of the world. I mean, we're now seeing escalation potentially with Iran, I guess, retaliating against Israel's retaliation against them. And what do you think is going on there, Tom? I mean, what do you think a potential end game scenario is? I don't think the Israelis are going to back down.
Well, the end game scenario could be World War III and we all die. Now, do we want to take it a little short of that scenario and say, there'll be more of a regional war or something lesser? But, the Ukraine, what's been going on now is for the last 3 weeks or so, I think it's Ukraine's turn to go on the offensive and retaliate. Might be Israel's turn, but they've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. But for the last 3 weeks, all we've heard about is Iran could attack anytime. It could happen tonight. Thousands of missiles pouring into Israel, blah, blah, blah. And then another night passes and it doesn't happen. Then another day and another day. And I think right now we've been in this more or less holding pattern, waiting for Iran to do something, and they haven't done it yet. Now, in the meantime, you have all of this other stuff going in connection with this of who's going to back who. You talk about the bullies on the block. Israel knows that they're all set. They've got the mighty United States, warships, submarines, aircraft carriers, all heading into the area again. American troops heading into the area, along with the tens of thousands of Israeli troops that are moving north to the border of Lebanon. Now, what's interesting about that is that if it's just Israel versus Hezbollah, let's say in southern Lebanon, that happened in 2006. And the last time it happened, Hezbollah kicked Israel's rear end back to Israel. Now's the end of that. So Israel didn't accomplish anything invading Hezbollah in 2006. Now the reports are the army, the military capability of Hezbollah is much greater than it was in 2006. So that's another situation. So Israel looking to start an offensive and then hope that, well, the U.S. is right behind us all the time. The U.S. won't let us fail. The U.S. won't let Hezbollah, Lebanon, Iran, anybody else take out the Israeli state. So they're counting on that backing to back them up if they do this invasion. Now, Iran, meantime, has other, their own allies, which could include Turkey, Russia, who knows, China even. And so that's the other issue with this. Now, we know Israel has nuclear weapons. Iran, we keep hearing now, and we've heard this for a couple of years, they're very close. They're within a month or two of having the nuclear capability. Well, they may already have it and they may not. We don't know for sure. What we do know is Iran has very sophisticated missiles, hypersonic missiles and others that they could pretty much take out most of Israel, with a handful, at least the major cities, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa. So that's the other issue is Israel relying on the Iron Dome. That's okay when the routine missiles that Hamas has been firing and Hezbollah in the past. How does that work against hypersonic or, more sophisticated weaponry? That would remain to be seen. So we could be looking at a situation where Israel's on the verge of being wiped out, and the only thing that's going to save them is the mighty United States. And a lot of people are saying, we're not so mighty anymore. We might not be able to do that, especially waging a war, 7,000 miles from home.
Tom, I think it's pretty obvious to anyone, if you are following the news for whatever it's worth, that we have quite a presence in the Mediterranean right now. We've moved carrier fleets in there and all types of other aircraft, and even mentioning a nuclear submarine. And I'm wondering if the purpose or value in that is to make Iran aware that there could be potentially a response from us, which I'm not really too thrilled to hear about, because that would definitely make this not only Israel's war, but our war. And perhaps on some levels it already is, because if you listen to
I was going to say, exactly. It's already our war. It's been our war. It's always our war every time Israel does something.
Yeah, if you listen to what's going on in the United States, guys, we're listening to people that are pro-Palestinian. I got it. You have an issue with what Israel's doing in the Middle East in response to Hamas in Gaza. I got it. What does that have to do with the animosity and the rhetoric and the burning of the American flag and the rhetoric that lends itself to the death to America? I don't quite understand the correlation here, but
and those groups don't control the U.S. military, our arsenal, our capabilities. The people that do control it just gave 58 standing ovations to Netanyahu a couple of weeks ago when he talked to Congress, both sessions of Congress, and re-emphasizing basically that Netanyahu has total backing from the U.S. Congress, and that means total backing from the U.S. military, total backing from the U.S. elite class that run this country, not from these people in the street burning flags and protesting.
Something that might be worth mentioning is that the vice president, who's parading around running for president now, is absent during that visit. You would think that if you were going to assume that role you're trying to garner, you might want to be present with this guy and start to have some different levels of engagement with him. But this is a whole nother discussion regarding this campaign, and listening to the vice president tell you about all the things she's going to do on day one, which is the borders. You've been in 3.5 years. You were designated as the individual to manage it. I don't care what anyone says. You can lie about this all you want through your teeth. This is shameful, and it's a threat to our national security, as outlined by Christopher Wray, your FBI director. We're then going to talk about the cost of, goods and commodities. When I'm in on day one, where the hell have you been the past 3.5 years? You're in an administration that keeps reminding us of how well we're doing and how we're the best economy in the world. Is that supposed to be some form of comfort, to know that the rest of the world is going down the toilet and we're just going down a little less? I keep telling you guys, this is how little they think of you. They do nothing. There is no line in the sand they won't cross in insulting your intelligence. I listen to all of these things that are going to be done on day one that could have been addressed in this administration while you were the vice president. And there's nothing that says you have to be, in step with the president on everything he does in his policies. In fact, if you looked at Trump's administration, he got a lot of pushback, which probably led to their dismissal. But the point simply stated is you don't have to rubber stamp everything. And I think you just merely have to go back and look at the comments, critiques, sound bites from Kamala Harris on prior issues, and it kind of speaks volumes. I keep telling people, think about what you say before you say it, because once it's out, you can't take it back. Although we're really doing a hell of a job trying to do that. But I say that
they always take it back.
Say again, Tom?
That doesn't apply. It does not apply to this administration. They can say whatever they want. You have Biden making quotations on his way to get on the helicopter on the White House lawn or to board Air Force One. And he says something stupid, and Karine Jean-Pierre and her staff take it back immediately. Within a few hours, it's retracted. So the idea, to me, the only thing that can't be retracted is a bullet. You shoot a bullet at somebody, there's no calling it back. But you say something totally stupid, which is a daily occurrence for this administration, they take it back 10 minutes later. And then nobody holds them to account for it. You have that right now. Kamala Harris making statements and the media not even questioning that, well, why didn't you do it 3 years ago? What are you talking about? You're going to do this day one, lock the borders down, or stop inflation, or start energy exploration. You guys shut it down. In fact, she says that. And at the same time, in recent appearances, she's made no bones about the fact she's against fracking. And so she's really not going to support exploration in the energy industry, which is one of the primary causes of inflation. Because when gasoline or diesel fuel or any of those natural gas, when that goes up, the cost of farming goes up, the cost of transporting the farmed goods to factories or other places to prepare it goes up, driving it to the grocery stores goes up, your gas to get to the grocery store to buy something goes up. So that energy, when she talks about, well, we don't need fracking, we don't need this, that's exactly what's going to happen and what's going to continue. That's what caused it in the first place. So she's either, it's a combination, yet it's again, combination that we were saying with Biden. Are they that stupid or lying or both? And I think in her case, she has yet to show that she's any kind of a Rhodes Scholar when it comes to any issue.
23 days, she has not answered a question for the media, period. And I'm not saying that because I'm a big Republican supporter. I'm a supporter of the truth. I find it also rather interesting as this thing continues to unfold. You know, we've listened to all the assaults on President Trump and his dalliances. Well, it sounds like Kamala might have had one with Willie Brown, more cordially referred to as downtown Willie Brown, someone who was married and 30 years her senior, or her husband's dalliance with the housekeeper or domestic help, where we're trying to find out, was there a pregnancy? Guys, an interesting expression applies. When you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. But that doesn't seem to deter the distortion. And Tom, listen, I'm going to just say it. We're having lie after lie after lie. And every chance they get, they point out the inaccuracies in Donald Trump's comments, speeches, remarks. The Democrats have nothing but intentionally bold-faced lied to the American public, especially the minority community, who they've intentionally misled into thinking that they care about them when clearly they don't. There's no advancements. I mean, this has become this country one gigantic lie, one weaponization of one institution after the other, whether it's the judicial system, the media, the CDC, medicine, your academic environments. We don't even know where to stop with this conversation. And all you're really doing is harming the credibility of every institution in this country, which ultimately translates to the future of our kids, which drives why Tom and I are invested in doing this podcast. We're not doing this because we want to hear each other talk or exchange notes. Tom and I talk on the phone frequently. And as I always say, it's quite an educational experience in speaking with him. But we're doing this for the future of this country. Tom and I are out of the woods. We have pensions, Social Security. I have a business. Tom's doing okay in his own little projects and speaking and such. And it's about our children. And the Democrats don't really seem to care about that. The thing that really is alarming is that every day we're learning about something else involving the illegal immigrants in this country. I wonder, Tom, if you want to contribute to this discussion about what's going on with the crime. It's going through the roof, guys.
Well, yeah, you've got a number of high-profile cases where illegal aliens have murdered people, mostly women, rape, beat, stab, throw them off of subway platforms in front of a train. So, yeah, we've had this almost been a continuing thing. And so what? Who's doing what about it? Kamala's saying now, day one, I'm going to close the border. Well, what have you been doing for almost 4 years in power? You opened the border. You created the crisis. You've made all this happen. And now you're going to stop it. what makes you think why do you want to stop it? You haven't said there's anything wrong with what's happening. You think this is great. So why stop it if it's so great?
And while we're on the topic of this border, so everyone is clear, we're continuously hearing from this Jean-Pierre Piot, whatever this young lady's name, who is way in over her head, and a number of other people attached to this administration and the Democrat Party, that the Republicans are blocking some form of a bipartisan border bill that's going to help address it. Ladies and gentlemen, please read this. Don't listen to Tom and myself. Built into this is an allowance of 2,500 illegals coming into the country every day, which translates to roughly 1.8 million people. And there is no way to calculate or compute on a daily basis who's coming in. And they've yet to address the fact that we have unmonitored sectors of the border. They've yet to address how they're going to address the gotaways, which are individuals that come through into the country without encounters. They're detected through technology, thermal imaging, cameras. You've heard me talk about this before, guys. Drones. What's going on here, guys? This is becoming one gigantic lie. And every day I inch into this podcast, and Tom is already there. He's just kind of biting his tongue, and maybe because I'm trying to be more conservative in regards to my approach about who you're going to vote for. I'm going to tell you this, guys. Think about your children. Look at the trajectory of this country. Look at this border issue. I've lived long enough to understand the economy is cyclical. This whole ruse with transitioning to electricity was what it was, not the first time at the rodeo. Our foreign policies have sucked at the hands of both of these political entities. This thing with your safety is my line in the sand. I am extremely open-minded. I support gay rights, gay marriage. I think we should build a lane for transgender people, absent of anybody going near our kids. I just think you have to live and let live. And I don't care what anyone does in their personal life. When it comes to your safety, we're having a whole nother conversation. A couple of days ago, we had another sexual assault in Coney Island, a section in Brooklyn, another illegal immigrant. There's a lack of morality, a lack of conscience. And if you're that stupid, when you go to vote because you have so much personal animus for Donald Trump, the guy that lacks bedside manner, and you continue to vote this in, you will deserve everything you get. And I'm going to give you a little prediction. The best is yet to come if the Democrats prevail in November. I don't know how else to say this to you. Donald Trump may not be our best option in many ways, but Donald Trump knows how to take care of business. Look, I was a law enforcement agent. So was Tom. We always like to do things the nice way when we can, but every now and then you brush up against a knucklehead where you may not have a lot of leverage. Let me give you an example. When a guy's been locked up for robbery and assault 3 or 4 times and been in a can already, you think locking him up for number 4 or 5 has impact? It doesn't. So please understand the conversations that take place to keep that behavior into alignment. And that's an immediate response to a need. We need to go back then and dissect and intellectualize why we're having so many problems with minorities in this country. It's because we turned our back on them. And the Democrats keep pulling smoke up their backsides, making them think they care about them when clearly they do not. There's no evidence of that. And I've laid out how the strategy is to exactly how to reinvent and redefine the minority community. If you like, I'll repeat it again, but I'm going to give you a break today. I'm just tired of the goddamn lies coming from the Democrats. And I'm not saying that the Republicans don't misrepresent. I hear what everyone says. I'm attached to no one. I'm attached to the truth. I'm attached to my children, the future of the young people, the future of this country. So is Tom. You guys know nothing about this man. He spent 29 years in the FBI. Okay, it crushes him to see the politics of McCabe or Strzok or Lisa Page or Comey or any number of these jokers that have propped themselves up. And I don't mean
Wray.
Okay,
Christopher Wray vowed to fix it, and he has not. I know you don't like it when I criticize him, but that's the truth.
You know, Tom, the thing I'm trying to do, because he is the FBI director, and he's been quite bold about identifying the fact that the southern border of the United States is a threat to national security. We have a fentanyl problem. Tom is much better versed to critique the FBI and Christopher Wray than I am. But, you know, my thing is, at this point, if we're getting a little good out of him, that's better than nothing. He could stand up there and bullface lie like Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, and tell you the border's secure. At least he's not doing that. He's doing the opposite. And if it doesn't insult you when Mayorkas, who poses as a Homeland Security head, or this alleged vice president tells you your border is secure, pull your heads out of your hiney. This is not about your pocketbook. It's not about inconvenience. This is about the safety. We are going to lose this country if the Democrats prevail in November. I don't know who to tell you to vote for, but I'm telling you that fact. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Connect the dots yourself, ladies and gentlemen. We will lose this country. Take a look at this country. A little more than 3.5 years into this administration, our major cities are unrecognizable, and so is this country as a whole. You went after your cops, in which you're going to get into Minneapolis in a minute because of this Walz character. You want to know something, guys? I watched the video. I encourage you to watch, and it's a documentary. Take it in context. It was generated by a conservative element to, I guess, put out what they want you to hear. But it's pretty in your face about it. The picture's worth 1,000 words. It deals with George Floyd, that encounter with the police. But more importantly, that we burnt the city for 3 days. That on this documentary, you will watch the police in that community abandon a police precinct. I think it was the 3rd precinct. By the way, not everybody in those communities are bad. You need cops there. They ran them out. Watch this documentary. You will watch them being escorted out of that command, which is later burnt by tactical units and vehicles as such. Where was this asshole governor that thinks he's qualified to run this country? I don't care about his military record. I know he wants to lie and smoke a mirror and misrepresent what he did with his military commitment. I'm not even going to be kind about this. This jerk-off let this country burn, this city of Minneapolis burn for 3 days. They burned a police command. They ran the cops out so they didn't end up getting caught in the middle of this and potentially getting hurt or relying on deadly physical force to preserve their own being. This guy's a joker. Vote for him. I dare you all to vote for these people. I don't know what else to say. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you don't vote for them, though. Go vote for Mr. Green Cheese or Robert Kennedy or the Libertarians or Donald Trump. Pick someone other than the Democrats because they're running your country into the ground. You can tap dance around this and color this any way you want. The truth is the truth. And you see, I get a little animated here with this because this is about your safety. I have spent more than 51 years of my life protecting people and saving their lives. I worked 15 years on the Atlantic Ocean as a lifeguard, pulling people out of the water that would have otherwise died. I was in law enforcement. I've disarmed kids with guns 4 times in 16 months, never unholstered my weapon. I know what I'm talking about out here, folks. I know when we're in trouble, and we're in trouble. The economy will rebound, hopefully someday. This thing about electricity transition, you better bite onto this notion about nuclear energy, because it's the way out. Everybody's afraid of that word nuclear because of our immediate introduction with the devices deployed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We know what it's capable of doing if it's not properly managed. But by the way, guys, it's the same thing with everything. If you don't properly manage guns, you're going to have a problem. Let's keep buying cars or selling people cars, kids that go 160 miles an hour. Explain to me why we have this need. Can cause that. It's about degrees and level of damage. By the way, look at my podcasts. I've been alluding to nuclear energy. Most recently, Elon Musk and now Bill Gates are talking about nuclear plants. I think Gates is looking either at Wyoming or it's Montana, one of the two. Guys, this is your country. Tom and I are just trying to give you a little light at the end of the tunnel here. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I am telling you who not to vote for because I see what they've done to this country. These lies about how the economy is rebounding, how much better we're doing. But we're the best economy, in the world. Oh, that makes me feel really good that the other economies are in the toilet and our economy is only half in the toilet. Guys, everything has gone up dramatically, well in excess of 20%. My utility bill and my water bill have gone up over 25%. I'm currently renting a home, not going to tell you why. 28% increase in rent because my owner of the home was a friend. It's being passed on to him. And Tom pointed out something that you need to pay attention to. You go into a supermarket and you buy cereal or a hamburger or a hot dog. It's exponentially more because the cost of fuel, which is being consumed by the truck drivers bringing you your commodities, has gone up. And that's going to be just transferred, passed on to you. This isn't brain surgery. Why don't they just tell you the truth? On day one, we closed the Keystone Pipeline. We're talking about closing Line 5. What are you, totally trying to destroy us, folks? I don't know what happened here to the Democrats. And I go back and remind you, and I would like to take Tom, if we have time today, to talk about the Kennedy assassination and this whole awakening of America. Because John Kennedy was a conservative Democrat. I voted for Democrats in the past. I explained why. And there was legitimacy behind it. But don't talk to me about Barack Obama. He did nothing for the minority community. Nothing. He redefined America for you. He made references that, that could have been my son. Yeah, let's keep the rhetoric up, polarizing the country, amping up the hate and the racism. Guys, let me say something to you. There are racists in this country. There are racists in every country. This is not a racist nation. People have moved well beyond the color of your skin. And to be honest with you, most people have moved beyond your lifestyle choices. If you're gay or LGBT, I don't care. And I suspect that I've hired people that are gay, and I don't care. If they do a great job, I'm happy. Their personal life's their business. And I remind you of something. Guard your privacy. Tom, I know you're following this thing with Waltz. Am I correct? You heard about his military career, which seems to be in question. But you're familiar with Minneapolis and what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. The scars are still there. The police stations and the other businesses that were burned to the ground in the so-called mostly peaceful protests. Yeah, it was horrible. And he didn't do anything to stop it for a long time. It's interesting. The twin tandem of him and Kamala Harris, he allowed the city to burn, and Kamala Harris created the funds to let the people that burned it out of jail. She established the bail fund and said it was going to continue forever and all of that, to help all the poor people that started these fires, that got arrested for arson or aggravated battery or attempted murder on people or on police officers, others. That all happened on Waltz's watch to allow the burning, to allow the destruction, and Kamala's watch to recommend that nobody be held accountable, that anybody that got arrested get bailed out. So she established the bail fund for people to do that. It's unbelievable.
If you notice, guys, we can't get Kamala Harris to a microphone to answer a question that the press might pose. Don't you find that a little insulting? It's 24 days now. Let me remind you of something else. She finished less than 2% in the polling during the primaries. She also accused Joe Biden of being a racist. Whether he is or he isn't, it's up to you to decide. But Tom and I are not here pontificating because this is going to do something for us. We care about this country. I care in particular about the young people here. I had some journey, I will tell you. I've been so fortunate. I can't even quantify it. I grew up in a different America. So did Tom. Tom happens to be 1 day older than I am. We were born the same year. He's 1 day older. We grew up in the same America. We've traversed the law enforcement community and its madness concurrently. I don't know what to say to you guys, but we're not in this because we're politicians. I'm the furthest thing from a politician. I've had a lot of contention in my life because I've latched onto the truth, and people don't like the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Don't listen to, people that have I have no political platform. This is about your safety. Okay. We made a mistake with the economy. We can correct it. I don't think the Democrats can because they're too busy taking care of everybody. You guys ought to know all the people dependent upon us in this country today. We've made the minorities dependent upon us for the most part. The migrants, the Ukraine, Israel. We just keep mounting people that we're writing checks to. And I have no problem supporting Israel, to be honest with you, because people don't understand how critically important they are to this country, the way they're positioned in the Middle East. This is your country, guys. You have to put your political lens down and love your kids more than you love your politics. And all these people parading around, pumping smoke up your rear end and lying about this woman, Kamala Harris, this is shameful. She's a pathological liar, and she is intentionally misleading you. And by the way, when Donald Trump does it, I'm happy to tell you that as well. And he misstates facts as well. Okay, I'm not arbitrating that with you. It's the degree of damage we're talking about. Would you agree, Tom? We both heard Donald Trump misspeak and say something off the wall, but the damage that's been caused by this administration is unavoidable, independent of what you would like. And to all the rich people out here, the affluent have the luxury of being liberal, right? And the luxury of being, I would say, off the radar screen because you live in gated communities with people like myself protecting you. I know what's going on in this country. I don't care about the Republicans. I don't care about the Democrats. I care about the honor and the integrity and the trustworthiness of this government that's now gone. And if I have to make a measure for you guys, where it's out of kilter, it's the Democrats. You listen to the rhetoric of Tlaib, Omar, Cori Bush, Letitia James, Maxine Waters, Cortez, pick 'em. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Pull your heads out of your backsides, put your political lens down. And when you go into by the way, guys, just so you're aware, you can start to vote September 6th, I think it is, in Arizona. We haven't heard this woman speak about addressment any issues except these bold-faced lies, much of which echo Donald Trump, by the way, folks. We're now going to address the border. Really? What have you done for my first day in office? Really? So we have 6 more months of this lunacy, you baboon, before you end up, addressing this problem at the border, or the fact that people can't afford to feed their children? Go out and fill a car up with gas, or a diesel truck with diesel fuel, which is what's running in your tractor trailer. What planet are we living on here? You got to get away from this whole practice of lying and intentionally misleading the public, which is done every day. And by the way, the media is leading the charge. As I so cordially remind you, your narrative and your optic are created by them. You hear only what they want you to hear. They're selectively reporting. Am I accurate in saying that, Tom?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this is your country. Not my country, not Tom's country. It's our country. I have to say something else to you guys. Your customs and immigration people are reporting to you, your border patrol, right? We have 190 plus countries coming across that border. Where did you get the idea that the founding fathers in the formation of this country and this government entertained the notion that everybody on the planet was going to come here and get along, and we were going to entertain your culture, your lifestyle, all your idiosyncrasies? Will you please get in the real world with me? And here's the deal. If you do come here, you be prepared to surrender some of your customs or your mores. You have to learn to assimilate, and we don't. And truth be told, that's a government issue as well. It's incumbent upon the government to help people that come into this country assimilate. And let me say something else to you. There's a lot of people who've come across that border, Mexicans, people from South America, other places. They're hard working. They just want a shot. Unfortunately, they've been commingled with a whole lot of people that don't belong here. And so while we're on the topic, and I'll go to Tom on this in a second, because Tom will talk to you about vetting. FBI did it morning, noon. They vetted me, for God's sakes. We can't vet the people coming into the country. There is no mechanism. We do not have enough assets to vet people. We have roughly 800,000 law enforcement agents in the country. I'll bet you we're pushing 400 million, because the truth be told, we have no idea how many people are in this country, just like we have no idea how many guns we have. We have no idea how many people illegally entered this country in the past 3.5 years. But the one thing I can tell you with certitude, I'm going to go to Tom in a second, we can't vet them. There are no databases to access. They change driver's license, passports, and birth certificates like you change your clothing. Hopefully you're changing your underwear every day. I'm not making any recommendations to you, but you understand my point. And by the way, they keep talking to you about the encounters at the southern border and the gotaways at the southern border, which are pushing in excess of 10 million. I listened to either Border Patrol or an ICE official say we have unmonitored sections of our 2,000-mile border. And by the way, are you talking to me about what's going on in Vermont or Maine? No. You include that number and the people coming into the country. And if you're relying upon Canada to help us, you better think another way, because it ain't happening. They got their own problems with this kid up there who's running this country. By the way, I remind you of this, as I do redundantly. The largest number of people that violate our immigration laws are people that overstay their visas. That was prior to this administration. We have gone to hell in a handbasket. There is no nicer way to say it. There is no way to say it without offending people, because look, guys, the truth is the truth. If you don't believe me, go hook up with some of these victims of these migrants. The crime with the migrants is rampant. What do you think was going to happen with 10, 15, 20 million people you brought here that we're not legally permitted to employ, that we're finding sleeping on our sidewalks in the city of New York outside the Roosevelt Hotel, 45th and Madison Avenue, Midtown, prime real estate? I mean, this is just absolutely ludicrous. It's your country. But Tom, this whole thing with this border issue and this vetting issue, please explain to him, this mechanism and the importance of vetting people. And you know what? The FBI, they vet people like myself. For example, when I went into the police department, Tom did also, our fingerprints went to the FBI. Am I right, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
And they conduct very thorough background investigations on you, domestically and perhaps abroad, depending on need, if they realize that you may have been out of the country. Guys, we have subversives in this country right now that are undermining your country. Now, let me tell you something that's going on in one of your major cities, city of New York, my home. You're allowed to peacefully assemble. You're not allowed to block roads, tunnels, or bridges. Where'd you ever get that idea from? And we're afraid to clear the streets. Stay on the sidewalks, comply within the boundaries that are outlined in the permit issued by the mayor's office in the city of New York, and don't obstruct traffic or emergency vehicles that are trying to get to people to render aid. People suffering from cardiac arrest, children struck by autos, victims of crimes. Do you not see what's going on? Do you think it doesn't impact you until it impacts you more directly? Well, wait and see. It's coming your way. Let me tell you something else about New York City. Drive up Madison Avenue. Drive down Lexington Avenue. Drive up 3rd Avenue, down 2nd, up 1st. Look at the vacant retail space. It's shameful. By the way, the mayor in the city of New York, which was a mistake, he came out and said the immigration issue in New York City is going to destroy the city of New York, and it is doing it. They're stealing mopeds like I'm brushing my teeth every day, guys. The police department suddenly has decided to go out and impound them. You've got to see avenues like 9th and 10th Avenues around 57th, 56th, 55th Street. I was there. I saw it. It's ridiculous. It's insulting. Where are the elected officials in this conversation? Why are Tom and I the only two guys that get on air and talk to you like this? We're not here to make friends with you. I'm not Joe Rogan where I'm looking to entertain you. I'm not trying to entertain you. And I take nothing away from Joe Rogan. He's got a nice little podcast going. He has not walked the path Tom and I have walked. I can tell you that with certitude. And when you talk to people about these issues and topics, Tom and I both clearly understand the trajectory of this country. Most people in these talk shows aren't inclined to problem solve. Tom and I are not only talking to you about the problem, but there's a resolution to all of these issues. Some of them are a bit more extreme than others. For example, the reality of the situation is this border needs to be closed in totality. And I'm going to ask Tom his opinion on that in 1 second. They need to allow us to regroup, narrow down points of entry. We got over 50 points of entry along that border, which goes back to how do you keep track of how many people coming through an entry point every day till you hit that magic number of 2,500. When are you going to stop lying, having them lie to you and insult your intelligence? And I tell you this once again, this is how little they think of you, that they'll throw. The expression is, excuse me, shit against the wall to see if it sticks. That's what we're living today. And for everybody that rubber stamps the Democrats, you've lost your mind. The Jewish community, and I have a load of good friends in the Jewish community, how you're backing any Democrat is beyond me. They don't know what sheet of music they're on as far as this anti-Semitism goes. But you back them anyway. I'm going to go to Tom for a second because I'm monopolizing this podcast, and I apologize to Tom. Donald Trump comes from my home. Truth be told, every time there was a building project that wasn't progressing properly, they went to Mr. Potato Head, finished it ahead of schedule under budget, developed the west side of Manhattan along the Hudson River from 32nd Street south to about 59th Street where the sanitation department is. All the buildings there had Trump on their porte-cocheres. They weren't his buildings. They were paying for his brand. He had a hotel, an apartment, a condominium he built on 70th and Riverside Boulevard. I know this intimately. Woolman skating rink. We couldn't get a skating rink done. Trump came in and fixed it. Every time they had a problem. Oh, by the way, he hobnobbed with Clintons. They went to his wedding with Melania. They're all full of shit in plain English. The minute he ran for office and started to realize how convoluted this political system of ours is and his intent on addressing this country and its trajectory, everybody became alarmed. And suddenly, where we can't find things bad to say about him, we make it up. Oh, that's right. He was allegedly involved with the porn star in 2016. Personally, If he was involved with Stormy Daniels, we should have impeached him for bad taste. Period. End of discussion. But once again, why weren't you concerned when Bill Clinton was involved in oral copulation with my client, Monica Lewinsky? Didn't bother you. Allegations from Juanita Broderick about rape didn't bother you. Where was the National Organization of Women? Silent. By the way, where's Chuck Schumer? Nadler, Schiff, Blumenthal, Sanders, they're all Jewish. Where's the outrage with the anti-Semitism in your party? Tom, you want to rescue me here?
Yeah. When do you want me to start?
I don't know, Tom. I mean, you could...
10 topics ago? Or
you know what the problem is? That
want to go to Schumer and those guys? The Democrats act like a herd of rats. That's how. They have anti-Semitism or they have these issues come up. They all follow along. The issue of the wide open border, which should be addressed by everybody, no, they don't do anything about that. When the Republican House impeaches or files articles of impeachment against Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, and they deliver them to the Senate, which is constitutional, the Senate then is supposed to hold the trial and be the jurors of whether or not Mayorkas is guilty and gets impeached. Schumer, upon arrival of the papers, tears them up. Kind of reminds me of Pelosi when Trump was delivering the State of the Union, and she tore up his speech. So you have the Democrats really not doing anything to solve these issues or to make it worse. And when you don't have a reasonable Democrat in the middle of all this that raises an issue, and other ones, and at least, 20% say, that person's right, that senator's correct, or that congressman's somebody we should listen to. No, you had them all almost unanimously get in line, like I said, like a herd of rats getting off a sinking ship or getting on a sinking ship, whichever direction the rats are going in. Now, you mentioned, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes ago about the overstays, the big problem in immigration that stay too long. Overstay of their visas. That's not the biggest problem because in order to get a visa, you get vetted. The U.S. doesn't issue the visa to anybody until they know who you are, where you live, whether you have a critical criminal record, I should say, what you're coming to the U.S. to do, study, move, take a job, whatever it might be. So they're the easier ones to deal with. Somebody that overstay, it's the people that come in that are anonymous that we have no ability to vet even before they come. Now that vetting process, the way it's supposed to work, somebody shows up if they come legally, show up at passport control, show their passport, and then that pass makes an inquiry of all of the U.S. criminal databases and inquiry of Interpol's databases. And if the foreign country has filed warrants or papers, that would get entered. So you would be vetted at the time you go through border patrol or passport control. So that if you don't have a country cooperating with the United States, and most do, but many don't, that's where you can't vet. So if you're running an inquiry, somebody from North Korea gets apprehended at the border, North Korea is not going to share whether that person's ever been arrested or not with us. Many of the other countries that don't have police or intelligence services that even track criminals like that, Syria and some of the other Middle Eastern countries, African countries, they don't have the ability to even keep their own records, much less share them with us if we're trying to vet an individual. So that's how unvetted individuals cross into the country every day.
And if you're listening to what Tom's saying, he's just reinforcing what I'm saying to you guys. And this gentleman ran the FBI's international operation. If there's anybody that knows about investigating people here and abroad when necessary, or a vetting process, it's Tom. It's just like Tom when he talks about classified information and this whole skiff nonsense. I was starting to make a point and I went off on a tangent, which is quite easy for me to do because all these topics I speak to intertwine. You can start to vote. I was starting to say this before, September 6th. I think it's Arizona, Tom. Am I right about that? Yeah, I believe it's Arizona. We haven't had a debate, and we haven't heard a single word about policies or a question answered by a media person with this person who props herself up as a presidential candidate. I only ask you this one question. Are you that stupid? Okay. Are you so poisoned in your thinking that you're prepared to be yanked around by the nose? Guys, there's a problem here. You have to understand that. And let me say something else to you that's kind of circulating. It's all conjecture. When did we ever have a debate in June between two men that were not nominated at a convention to be president? This was a hit job on Joe Biden. That's what this was. You know what? And they can lie about all they want. But you know what? When it looks like it and it smells like it, and for some of you, you taste it, it is what it is. That's it. This was a hit job on this knucklehead. You know, I'll tell you something interesting that I learned about George W. Bush in a conversation with Barack Obama when Barack Obama became president and sworn in January of 2009. He said, you have to watch your back. And he goes, not just from the other side of the aisle, your own people. That's what just happened with Joe Biden. This poor guy is in trouble in life because Father Time has caught him by the BBDs. It should be incumbent upon his wife first and foremost, and all these people that allege to be his friends and supporters to protect him, not to continue to expose and embarrass this man. This guy's having a hard time walking right now, guys, which was the tell when he got sworn in. Having been quite athletic in my life, when I see your feet shuffle, that's the motor skills, the back of your brain. You're changing. It's okay. It's the journey. This is so dysfunctional and so dishonest with the Democrats. I can't quantify it. I'm at the point like this. I used to love Morning Joe, by the way. I thought it was a well-balanced show. It had people of opposing views and there was some civility in the discussions. I listen to this guy now. What the hell happened to you? You sound like a complete knucklehead. And I don't mean to speak that way about you, but listen to yourself. Do you not have any chops? You sound like you're being puppeted. You know, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Misha Brzezinski, but what's her credential that would allow her to tell you or influence your thinking on any topic? And by the way, guys, that applies to the vast majority of the people in the media. I brush up against them. I see them. There's some really great, competent people there. Both sides of that discussion, Democrats and Republican. You're supposed to divorce your bias and your political views when you're reporting. You're supposed to be objective, truthful, and fair. And that just isn't happening. And I don't think Tom needs to tell you that if you have a brain in your head. We're not telling you to drink anybody's Kool-Aid. I'm just telling you, open up your eyes. I'm not telling you listen to Fox or CNN or MSNBC. I'm saying open up your eyes. Look at what's going on in your own country. The problem you have, though, a lot of what you're allowed to see is being controlled and regulated by the media that's selectively choosing what they're going to give to you. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back and see, you know, I can get charged up about this. Listen, guys, I love this country more than I love my own life. I've had such a journey here as a result of being an American. The prerogative, the latitudes I can't believe the good fortune I've had. Most importantly, how much I've learned about life. I traveled this country. I've traveled this world. You have to put your stuff on the back burner and open yourself up and become receptive to people, how they're raised, because we're all products of our environment. You got to start to suck it in. It'll help you grow. I would lay down my life to preserve my children in this country. Tom was in a job that subscribed to the same notion, by the way. That's what policing is about. But independent of that, you know, Tom and I are far enough down the road. We don't have to do this. Believe me, we don't have to. But we're doing it because we're worried about the future of this country and our children. We're going to come right back. Stay with us.
Thank you for tuning in to Operation Truth. We are just taking a moment to remind you to go follow us at Operation Truth Official on TikTok. You can also find us at Operation Truth Official on Facebook and Instagram. Be a part of this conversation and join the operation.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. And the next time we convene, I'm promising you we're going to get into a discussion about the historic value of the Kennedy assassination, of which Tom is intimately knowledgeable of. And as I spoke to you on a couple of occasions, and Tom as well, this introduction to the military-industrial complex, which steers a lot of the conversation today. And I'll tell you something else that's interesting. Tom expressed some concern about our military capability. You should be concerned about that also. The one thing I will tell you is no one's ever going to occupy America. It will never be a good idea, I can just tell you, because of the way this country's armed. I said to you earlier in this podcast, we have no idea how many people are here, how many guns are in the country, how many illegals there are in this country. We have no idea. And that's a simple, sad truth. Interesting thing about this, there was never really a need the way there is today to account for firearms. They'd like to make you think we have a gun problem, we have a mental health problem, we have a parenting problem. We have people living on the street, our veterans, our homeless, our mentally ill. We need to care for our elderly and protect our children. We're still not protecting our kids. Don't care what you say. Keep funneling that money into the Ukraine. The American public just, you don't know when to come in from the rain. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it for today. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you found what we said was not entertaining, but interesting. We are not trying to spoon feed you. We're trying to traumatize you into clear thinking so you step away from your hate and your animosity and division and just look at things factually based. Things that Tom and I are telling you, many of them are factually based. When it's an opinion, a conjecture, or speculation, Tom and I tell you that. I do it all the time. I'm not trying to spoon feed you. I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I'm just pointing and talking about issues, as Tom is, that you guys need to be aware of, whether it's the corruption in the Ukraine and how this government may very well be compromised by the Ukraine and its leadership, which is why we're funneling, probably close to $200 billion in this place while we're neglecting our own people, or any of these other topics. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Operation Truth. You can find us operationtruthofficial.com. You can communicate with us. We don't want you to rubber stamp what we're saying. We encourage you to question. I defy anybody in the political environment, don't care which side of the aisle, anybody running for office, sit down here and talk to me and tell me what you want to tell me and what I said today was untrue. That's what I'd like you to do. I dare you. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.